مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا. The example of those who were burdened with the Tawrat. حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ, the Tawrat was burdened onto them, or they were burdened with the Tawrat. حُمِّلُوا comes from تحميل, حَمَّلَ يُحَمِّلُوا تحميلا, and the majhul form would be حُمِّلَ. So hum حُمِّلُوا, they were burdened. And this is actually, this حَمَلَ عَلَى, and there's tahmeel, and tahmeel is more powerful, meaning they were given the huge burden of the Tawrat. Tawrat was not a light burden, it was a major burden, which means it was a major responsibility. To carry something in Arabic is to uphold a responsibility. So tahmeel is in the sense of responsibility. ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا, then they didn't even carry it a little. لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا, from tahmeel, not even hamal. They didn't even do hamal of it. This is the mujarrad form, right? So it implies that they were given a huge responsibility, and forget it, they didn't even take care of a little bit of it. كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ, the example, their example is the example of a donkey. Now notice, mathal in Arabic is a means of giving the example of something, and when you say example, it's not exactly the same. Then ka in Arabic, like bata, kaf, lam, wa, what is ka? Like. And mathal, example, and ka, like, are synonymous. So you could say, for instance, in the Arabic language, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا مَثَلُ الْحِمَارِ. Their example is the example of this. Or you could say, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا الْحِمَارِ. The example of them is the donkey. You could just make it the khabar. Or you could say, كَحِمَارِ or كَالْحِمَارِ. But actually in the ayah, it's كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ. This is a form in rhetoric of tab'id, of distancing. I'm giving you the example of a donkey, but even a donkey is much better actually. But the closest thing would be the donkey, really. They're remotely something, these people that did this are something like the donkey. Now notice, this is the gross incompetence and the gross misinterpretation of some. Oh, Allah says the Jews are like donkeys. Allah didn't say Bani Israel, Allah didn't say Yahud. Allah specifically mentioned and restricted this conversation to an act. To an act. There were people burdened with the responsibility of revelation, in that case Tawrat. And those people didn't carry that responsibility. Those people are remotely close, even though they're far worse than even the donkey. Kal-himar. Bani Israel in and of itself is not a curse word. It's not a bad word. It's an honorable name. Bani Israel has the name of a prophet in it. These people received more prophets than anybody else. And yes, they had a lot of failures. But who are we to talk? They had a lot of mess-ups in a good chunk of their population. That does not take away the righteous among them. That Allah compliments just as well in the Quran. وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن نَبِيٍّ قَاتَلَ مَعَهُ رِبِّيُّونَ كَثِيرٌ. Ribbi is actually the Hebrew term, and the English term is now what? Rabbi. How many prophets along the side of whom rabbis fought? People of Ribbi. The Ya and Nisba. You know Ya of Nisba? So Rabbani and Ribbi are like people of the Rabb. Godly people that aided the prophets of Bani Israel. So our modern political situation has led us to become very casually anti-Semitic. Very casually. And this is actually like grossly against the teachings of our deen. Like it's a serious violation of our deen. We're supposed to be able to learn lessons from those who made mistakes in the past. And there are people among Bani Israel who made mistakes in the past. And the reason, there's two important things to mention here on the subject of anti-Semitism. One of the reason Allah Azza wa Jal mentions those who made mistakes among them in particular, because they're closest to us. They're the most similar to us. If you actually study Orthodox Judaism or go to a traditional synagogue and sit with a rabbi, you'll feel like, oh my God. You feel like the fifth school of thought. If we have 4 schools of thought, this must be the 5th one. They're incredibly similar. Like you'd be shocked how similar. Their synagogue politics are like masjid politics. You can't even tell the difference. You just change the labels. It's the same stuff. Same stuff. It's incredible. But then the question arises, how come Quran says, Ya Bani Israel, اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم? Sons of Israel, make mention of the favor I favored upon you. I shaded you with clouds, I did this, I did that, I did that. Allah mentioned so many things He did for who? Bani Israel. And He doesn't say them, He says you. The weird thing is, the people that Allah was talking to at the time were in Mecca or in Medina. But Allah didn't shade the people of Medina with a cloud. The Jewish tribes of Medina, Banu Qurayba, Banu Qaynuqa, He didn't shade them with a cloud. Who did He shade with a cloud? Back in the day, the Jews at the time of Musa alayhi salam, the followers of Musa. How is He saying, I shaded you, وَظَلَّلْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ الْغَمَامِ? Why is He bunching them together with those people? That's a fair question. Allah is bunching them together. And you could say, well, those people made mistakes. Yes, those people changed revelation. Those people disobeyed their prophet. But why should their generations be blamed for that? Why should they be bunched with those people who came much after? The only reason that's done is because there was a behavior among the Jews of Medina in their reaction to the Prophet ﷺ. There was a particular group of Jews of Medina whose reaction to the Prophet ﷺ was exactly the same attitude that their ancestors had back then. And they're being told, you're being just like them. There's a parallel being made between the criminal element of Bani Israel at the Prophet's time and the criminal element of Bani Israel in Musa alayhi salam's time. That's okay, you want to take pride in your history? Well, you're acting like the not so proud moments of your history. That's what you're acting. That's the parallel that's made. It's not all Bani Israel, you guys all, did this or that. It's not like that. It's not like that. So, and the other thing that's really important in studying Bani Israel in the Quran is when Allah Azza wa Jal talks to them a lot about their history, right? There's probably no other nation whose history is talked about more in the Quran than Bani Israel, right? Because one of the sources of their pride, the disbelievers among them, the sources of their pride in not accepting the Prophet ﷺ was a pride in their history. We are a children of Israel tradition. We take pride in our history. There's no reason we should accept a Gentile messenger, a non-Israeli messenger. Allah says, you want to take pride in your history? Let me teach you some lessons from history that should put a dent in that pride a little bit. And you know what? I take from that, Muslims, subhanAllah, love our history. We love our history. The golden age. And we cite it all the time. What we don't talk about as much is what? The not so proud moments of our history. The embarrassing moments of until we accept the embarrassing moments of our history and learn from them, we haven't learned anything from Bani Israel. And the way Allah talks about them in the Quran. Allah is literally telling a nation that's proud of its history, look, you're fine, you have prophets in your history, but you've made plenty of mistakes too as a people. Learn from those mistakes. That's the exact same thing we were being told. We've got plenty of mistakes in our 1400 years. There's plenty we did messed up. We have to learn from that and stop saying, oh, I wish we could be back 6 centuries ago or 9 centuries ago. Oh, those were the good days. Ulama were running around with books in their hand and people were fighting with each other about, differences of opinion on little things and then hugging each other afterwards. And it was a happy time. Rainbows and sunshine. No. We've had plenty of, really sad times in our history too. Really sad occasions of our history. And we have to acknowledge them. In this case, they're being told, oh, okay, so, look at this comparison. The Prophet ﷺ, how can he be a legitimate prophet? He can't even read. Allah says, oh, but you have lots of books. Right? He can't even read it. You have so many books. Asfar. Asfar is volumes of books. Comes from safar. Safar. What's the other meaning of safar? Travel. Because literally you have to travel through a book. Your eye has to travel. And if it's a long journey, it's called safar. So volumes of books are called asfar because literally you're journeying through the text. You're navigating it. Line by line by line by line. And so Allah says, the example of the donkey, يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا, as it's loaded, or as it carries loads and loads of books. What does it mean? It's got a lot of books on the shelf. It's got a lot of books that it can cite or, claim ownership of. But what have you internalized from those books? Nothing. They're just burdens on your back. Nothing's gone in. the donkey is being used as a means of humiliation. And on top of that, books on the back, because the donkey is burdened by those books. I wish I didn't have to carry all these. And obviously there's no relationship between the books and the donkey, except that it's a nuisance. This is the relationship you have with your books, the real teachings they have. So the corrupt element among you just changes them, because it's such a burden. And you throw it behind your backs. And by the way, it's on the donkey's back. And in the previous discussion about Bani Israel in Surah Al-Baqarah, نَبَذُوهُ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِهِمْ, that threw it behind their backs. And now it's on their back. كَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, as though they don't even know. كَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. They threw the truth behind their back as though they don't even know. What do? We just, if there's a significant population among us who claims to have loyalty to the Quran, claims to be genuine to the Quran, knows nothing of it, doesn't speak genuinely of it. I recently saw an ayah being translated at a program, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونَ. Beautiful ayah. This is your ummah. A single ummah. Nasb ala al-madh. This is a single ummah, and I am your master. فَاعْبُدُونَ, and enslave yourselves to me. Translation, your community is one community, and I'm your Lord. Community. There's a big American flag on there too. And it was like a event to invite non-Muslims. The Quran says your community is one community. I slapped myself on the face. No, they didn't. They took ummah. And okay, maybe you can get away with translating ummah as community. Fine. But the word ummah in that ayah, in particular, is the Muslim faith community. It's not your community wherever you live is one community and I am your God. One nation under God. Look, you say one nation under God. Quran says that. Let's hang out. You can't do that. You can't misrepresent the book like that. I'm not saying you can't have a program about getting along with each other and being responsible citizens and opening channels of communication. Great. Do it. Don't drag the book into it where it doesn't belong. There's plenty of ta'awanu ala al-birri wa taqwa. Put that ayah there, man. Cooperate in all good things. There's no maf'ul bihi in the ayah. Ta'awanu ala al-birri wa taqwa. Cooperate in what? But not with who. So there's no restriction on who you can cooperate with, if it's a good thing. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Don't cooperate in sin and evil and animosity. There's no maf'ul bihi, which means if it's Muslims doing sin and evil, don't cooperate with them. You're not obligated to join Muslims in any cause. If they're wrong, they're wrong. And if non-Muslims are right, they're right. You can join them in a good cause, no problem. There's plenty of other ayat that don't have to land you in trouble. You don't have to do that. I feel very strongly about misrepresentation of Quran. Back in the 90s, when the email forwards were still a big thing? Now it's just Facebook spam, but email forwards back in the day? You get these email forwards, if you pray Fajr in the morning, then your day will be full of light. And if you pray Dhuhr on time, then you'll get a raise at work. And if you pray Asr on time, then your children will never go bald. And if you pray Maghrib, then your crooked teeth will be straightened out, or whatever. Like, they got a whole list of benefits for every salah. And at the bottom of the email forward, wisdom from the Holy Quran. Please forward it to 20 people, because if you don't, then, Allah will ask you on Judgment Day why you didn't spread the good. Another wisdom from the Quran, forward 20 people. Serious? This is a gross, when this happens, when people as a culture, they're distant from the book, and they are comfortable with that, then they start making assumptions about the book. And it's just a book on their backs. Literally, it's on the back shelf. It's in the dashboard of the car. That's all it belongs. That's the only place it belongs. And you can talk about it. Quran never says this or that or the other. Quran never says that. Quran doesn't say you have to be so uptight, Really, what does the Quran say? Please, enlighten me, because you just cited the Quran. Don't bring it up in conversation if you don't know what you're talking about. Don't bring it up. كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا بِئْسَ مَثَلُ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ. How terrible the example of the nation that lied against the miracles of Allah, lied against the revelations of Allah, ignoring revelation, not learning revelation, having it in your possession and not caring to take the time to learn it, is a denial, is lying against the ayat of Allah. That is a form of takdeeb. Wallahu la yahdil qawm al-zalimin. And Allah does not guide the wrongdoing nation. What is the wrong of that nation? They were given revelation and favor more than any other nation. They were supposed to represent the teachings of God more than anybody else so that the world could see what guidance looks like. So when they don't live up to it, then they are the ultimate deniers of revelation. The people that are more exposed to the truth become more responsible for it. So if the Muslims are more exposed, we are the believers, claim to be believers in this book, and if we don't represent its teachings, then we are the most responsible. Before we talk about, oh, Brother Numan, I have a question. Are Christians going to hell? What about Mother Teresa? What about Lady Diana? She was nice. You know, I heard the guy she was with was Muslim. Does that mean she can kind of tag along into Jannah? Can I, is this one going to hell? Why are you so worried about everybody else going to hell, man? We got a problem. Are we going to heaven? Because if your ticket, your reservation is confirmed, then you can worry about booking somebody else's tickets. We got no reservations. We're supposed to be hopeful. And when you study what Allah says about Bani Israel, and just take the word Bani Israel out and put us there, like 200% application. Sometimes I even argue, man, they would have been like, man, we was bad, but yous, you guys are on another level, Then it says, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ هَادُوا إِنْ زَعَمْتُمْ أَنَّكُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ لِلَّهِ. Those of you that have been, hadu means those have been engaged in Judaism. Literally the verb for Judaism is hada yuhadi. Okay? In za'amtum, if you've got the confident assumption, annakum awliya'u lillah, that you are the friends, close friends, protected friends of Allah, min dun nas, as opposed to all other people. Fatamannaw al-maut, then wish for death. Why wish for death? If you're guaranteed Jannah, what are you doing here? You gotta pay the bills here. You get old here, you get sick here. You have to eat food and go to the bathroom and you sweat. You have to take showers. Why do you want to deal with all this? You got Jannah guaranteed. Get out of here. Go. Ya Allah, take me. I can't wait. If you've already got a guaranteed seat, you shouldn't be interested in dunya anymore. It's very simple. I mean, if you live in a crummy little apartment and you got a letter that you have been awarded, you somehow won some random citizen drawing, the state has awarded you the biggest mansion 2 blocks down. You're going to stay in that little crummy house? You're going to go. The house is yours, it's guaranteed, it's got your name on it. They're waiting. Just go. You keep saying you're guaranteed, you're saved. How come you don't even wish for it? How come we never see you praying for it? What's that? We actually, in Islam, have been taught a dua about death, among many. وَتَوَفَّنَا مَعَ الْأَبْرَارِ. Take us among the righteous. Give me death among the righteous. We make a dua, it's fi'l amr, tawaffana. Give death to us among the righteous, subhanallah. Then go ahead and wish for it. Now, and by the way, this is the same thing that happens to a huge population of Muslims. Completely confident, why would Allah burn us in hell? We said la ilaha illallah. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala jannah. The Prophet's words, man. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Whoever said la ilaha illallah enters jannah. Done. There's the shart and there's jawab al-shart. Man qala la ilaha illallah, jawab al-shart, dakhala al-jannah. I already said it. I said it when I was like 7. I'm set. Really, is that all the Prophet ever said? What else did he say that day? What else did he say to the companion that he was talking to? How was that understood by that companion? That companion go on a sin spree because he's already said La ilaha illallah. I said, I can go on a shopping spree now because I'm already guaranteed Jannah. How are you understanding this better than any companion of the Prophet who was actually told this? How? What does the Quran say about this? What do other hadith say about this? Or would you just like to take one little bit and run with it? One bit, I don't need to hear anything else now, because I got this hadith, it saves me. By the way, that reminds me of a nation. Take a part of the book, leave a part of the book. أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. You believe in some parts of the law, you ignore other parts of the law, you believe in some parts of the book, you take other parts of the book. الَّذِينَ جَعَلُوا الْقُرْآنَ عِضِينَ, Quran says. Those who took the Quran and tore it to pieces. Literally tore it to pieces. Just one little piece I'll hold on to. That's all I need. SubhanAllah. فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتِ, and wish for death. إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, if in fact you're truthful. وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا. They're not going to be wishing for it ever. بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ, because of what their hands have already sent forward, which implies because of the investments they've already made. The kinds of things they've already done, they know. They know. They don't want death. And also means all the investments they've made are about a better future where? In dunya. Why would you want to leave if all your investments are tied here? When somebody makes an investment, they are anticipating and very patiently waiting for the day where the return on their investment comes. If all your investments are for this world, then you're just waiting for that day to come, payday to come. Our deen is about investing in dunya for yourself, fine. But more so investing in your akhirah. Allah doesn't let us do one or the other, we have to combine those two things. Like when you and I earn a halal income, then we've invested in our dunya and our akhirah at the same time. We've done both. When we give sadaqah, it's really awesome. It's actually a dunya and akhirah investment. Did you know that? That giving sadaqah is a dunya investment and an akhirah investment. مَا نَقَصَ مَالٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa'adana dhalik, right? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam promised us, money doesn't go down when you give charity. So if you give charity, then it will be refunded by Allah, guaranteed, in this world. Guaranteed. And you've deposited it into a halal interest account, akhirah account, that pays, at least 700 times. So you deposited $1 and it's 700, and then Allah adds, وَاللَّهُ يُضَاعِفُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah multiplies on top of that for whoever He wants. And when Allah says Allah multiplies on top of that, I was impressed with 700. But you know what? It's not 700. The ayah that says, you plant a seed, فِي كُلِّ سُنْبُلَةٍ مِئَةُ حَبَّةٍ. Every one of the corns, the ears of grain, gives another 100 seeds. So now that's what? 700 seeds. But every one of those rises and gives 100. 7 ears and 700. So it's 700 times 700 times 700 and it infinitely goes. And then Allah says, Allah multiplies on top of that for whoever He wants. Because this is something still you can put in a calculator and say it's infinite. But your infinite is different from God's infinite. So He says, this is just what you can imagine. I got on top of that a whole multiplication scheme that's beyond your calculus. وَاللَّهُ يُضَاعِفُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. So it's a pretty good investment. Akhirah investment. Don't use this in a fundraiser. I'm not giving this to you to use in a fundraiser. Okay. Don't get me started on fundraisers. We already did that in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا. They're never going to wish for it because they haven't made any investments in the akhirah. When we invest in dunya, and when we save in dunya, is it in danger? Our savings in dunya, are they in danger? Sure. You can save your money as money, but your account is only so much FDIC insured. You can save your money and turn it into gold or coins or whatever, put it in a vault, but how secure is your vault? You can put your money in the real estate market and buy a building and then get flooded. Earthquake comes. Whatever comes. When you and I deposit our money in an akhirah account, it's guaranteed. By the way, there is only one threat to your akhirah account. Only one threat. You know what that is? That is you you show off or you bring up into any human being how you gave that money. It's called al-man wal-adha. Man, I gave that much. I gave you people $10,000. What have you done with it? Don't even listen to what I have to say. It's gone. Got nothing left in the akhirah account. The quote underneath, you said, you brought it up to another human being and showed off about it or hurt other people's feelings about your charity. It is over. You get nothing in the akhirah. So if you're going to write a big check, then be quiet. No expectations, no nothing. Just write it. It's between you and Allah and that's it. Otherwise, you could have bought at least you could have bought a big screen TV or something. In dunya, you could have at least enjoyed it in dunya. You got no dunya and no akhirah now. Nothing. وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِالظَّالِمِينَ. Allah is fully knowledgeable of people who do wrong. قُلْ إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ. Tell them, no doubt the death that you people are running away from, فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. Then absolutely it is going to meet you. It is on its way to meeting you. It is meeting you. فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. It's the ing almost. But it is bound to meet you is a good translation of مُلَاقِيكُمْ. لَاقَ يُلَاقِي لِقَاءً وَمُلَاقَاتًا. This is a mufa'ala, an irregular mufa'ala form. ثُمَّ تُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. Then you will all be returned, taken back to the knower of the unseen and the seen. فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And He will thoroughly inform you of all the things that you used to do. So, there's 3 ayat dedicated to death. The Bani Israel, they don't really carry their book, and when they don't really carry their book, then what happens? They wish to live forever. They don't want to die. They want to run from death. They don't wish for it. And Allah says, you will face it, and you will be brought before Allah. You will be brought to trial. So there's a relationship Allah makes between not having a connection with Tawrat and then being afraid of death. Being afraid of death. There's a connection between there's a relationship between not being tied to revelation and developing a fear of death. The Prophet ﷺ was afraid the ummah will get weak. Other nations will eat from us like wolves. And the Sahaba said, are we going to be few? Are we going to be few on that day? He says, no. Alaykumul wahan. You'll have weakness. What was the weakness? And how will you alleviate that weakness? How will you alleviate that weakness? كثرة ذكر الموت وقراءة القرآن. He says, remember death a lot and do what? Recite Quran. The 2 things that will remove weakness from you will be remembrance of death and staying tied with revelation. In this surah, what was the problem mentioned of the Jews? The 2 things that were connected. 1, they had a superficial relationship with their book. It was on their backs. And next, they're running from death. And the Prophet ﷺ says, you will face that weakness. SubhanAllah. Like one shoe compared to the other, we're going to be like Bani Israel. Like one slipper compared to another slipper. SubhanAllah.